The history of the LGBT community in the United States is a long and turbulent road of injustice, revolution, and empowerment. It is filled with powerful figures and historic moments, and is still continuing today. It's impossible to summarize everything in 10 minutes, but in order to get a better understanding of the history and the modern day, I reached out to Dot Bessler from Twin Cities Pride.
Well, there you go. My name is Dot Bessler. I am Executive Director of Twin Cities Pride. I've been here since was interim ED in fall of 2009, and the board hired an executive director in January of 2010.
The recent history of LGBT people in America is long and complicated. For context, according to the Kinsey Report, approximately 16% of American people were queer in the 1950s, but despite this, they stayed mostly silent up until one major historical event.
Well, I think I'd have to go back to the Stonewall riots, right? I mean, that kind of is looked to be the catalyst for the current modern-day LGBT movement, and that's almost 50 years ago.
Stonewall Inn was a safe spot for members of the LGBT community to gather in the 1960s. It was raided by police on June 27, 1969, with very little explanation as to why. This was a direct violation of the 7th section of the Declaration of Human Rights, which guarantees that all are entitled without any discrimination to equal protection of the law. After the raid of Stonewall, a protest broke out to speak out against the prosecution of queer people. This moment is widely regarded as a watershed moment in LGBT history. One of the people at the forefront of this was Marsha P. Johnson, an African-American trans woman. She also led the way to starting several organizations that helped trans youth in New York City. While many think that all of the issues that faced queer people in the past are gone today, that is far from the truth, with LGBT people being discriminated against by politicians and their peers and falling victim to health issues at higher rates than straight people.
Our current administration is repealing a lot of laws, et cetera, that people really worked hard to put in place. There's a lot of homophobia in the current administration. That's not good.
The homophobia Dot is referring to is things like the sudden increase in so-called religious freedom acts, which allow businesses to discriminate on the basis of sexuality, and also several acts by the president that discriminate against LGBT people, such as his ban on transgender service members and the removal of protections for trans students to use the bathroom of their choice. While other politicians have fought to defend rights of LGBT people, a shocking 68% of LGBT youth have heard negative messages about their sexuality from politicians.
Also, there's a lot of health disparities in the LGBT community. People are more likely to smoke and drink because a lot of times they're targeted by the tobacco companies and liquor companies, and so it's a challenge.
According to the Truth Initiative, about 11% of straight youth smoke, and the number of LGBT youth who smoke is almost double that. This is partly due to tobacco companies deliberately targeting LGBT youth with ads in what they call gay press magazines in order to make smoking seem like a key part of the LGBT image. So, what are some organizations doing to help?
We create space for people to come together and just be together. A lot of times people will tell us that the Pride Festival is kind of like a family reunion. Like people will come to Pride and see folks maybe that they haven't seen in a year. Or they'll come and they'll learn about services for seniors or kids or family or trans folk or people of color, queer people of color in the community. It's just creating that space. There are some resources like Reclaim is a counseling service for trans youth. It's over in St. Paul. Some of the clinics too have, like Family Tree Clinic and Annex Teen Clinic, have really great LGBT resources.
So now, let's talk about what you as a class can do to help the LGBT community.
Volunteer and with an organization to connect and find folks who will be supportive. One of my things that I say about Pride, the Pride Festival, and why we do this work here is for that kid who comes to Pride from, I say, Podunkville, someplace out, who feels alone and doesn't think that there's any other queer people in their area, and then they come to Pride and they find family and acceptance, and it just, that's why we do this, is for people to come together and be together and know that there's support there.
Here are several organizations that you can volunteer at right now. and help the LGBT community in Minnesota.